To secure a ceasefire in the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas continue to prove unsuccessful. A former Israeli justice minister and the former legal advisor to the Palestinian peace process delegation are proposing their own plan for the region. They've called it the Holy Land Confederation Peace Plan, and here are some of their key points. It would enable citizens of each state to live on the other side of the border as permanent residents. Israeli and Palestinian permanent residents would vote in their respective national elections rather than their country of residence. But they would be entitled to participate in municipal elections in their place of residence and would enjoy the same rights. At least every 4 years, the two governments will meet to discuss further advancements and related other issues. Hiba Husseini and Yossi Beilin, thank you so much for joining me. So, Hiba, you and Yossi created a peace plan a few years ago, which you call the Holy Land Confederation. Can you explain briefly what you two proposed in this plan and how you think this could succeed where many have failed so far?
Certainly. Thank you very much for having me, and it's a pleasure to join Dr. Beilin this evening. The idea of the Holy Land Confederation stemmed from the fact that we are trying to find an articulated way to resume the two-state solution. So it's an umbrella. The Holy Land Confederation is an umbrella for the two-state solution. It does not replace in any way the two-state solution. As we have seen since October 7th and the ensuing war in Gaza, there is no way but to discuss the two-state solution in a very concrete manner. And what our proposal does is provides that vehicle to carry on from the Oslo process onwards and to establish a sovereign Palestinian state through a negotiated agreement whereby the two people, Israelis and Palestinians, share the land, have secure border, have security, and have a capital in Jerusalem. And we propose creative ideas for the treatment of the settlements and so forth.
Yossi, you said in November that despite how horrible this war is, it might actually push us towards a more lasting peace ultimately. Do you still think that now?
Well, there is no question that the issue of the two-state solution is back in town. After a few years in which people said, well, there is no chance, nothing will happen, forget it, let us now manage the conflict or shrink the conflict, and some other ideas like that. People are now speaking very often about the two-state solution and understand that this is the only one. So I think that from that respect, the issue of the two-state solution is more realistic than before, although one cannot ignore the fact that on both sides, the feelings of hate are increasing. And we have to hope that this will end soon, and that the two sides will sit together, talk about the solution that they both need. And we are suggesting something which seems to us a vehicle, an enabler for the two-state solution.
You helped devise the Oslo Plan in the 1990s, which was supposed to bring peace in the region. What factors in peace plans like Oslo routinely lead to their failures, do you think?
Well, what happened with Oslo is that extremists on both sides thwarted the chance for peace, used the 5 years in which we planned to negotiate on the permanent agreement in order to torpedo the agreement, and by violence they succeeded. From the massacre in Hebron in 94 by a Jewish doctor to the suicide terrorist events by Hamas and then even by the PLO towards the assassination of Rabin in 95. So in many ways, I mean, the majorities on both sides, like in other cases in history, and even in current history, are people who want to live. It's not such a big surprise. And there are few people who are zealots and who are ready to sacrifice themselves in order to prevent a peaceful solution, because they believe that the land is only theirs, and was given to them by God, and it is sacred land, and you cannot compromise on it. And our role as representatives of the majorities on both sides, people who are more pragmatic, more moderate, should suggest ways to get to the solution, to the two-state solution, in a realistic way. I think that we found the key for that.
Okay, and I'll put this question to both of you, especially now that the two sides seem so far apart. How do you deal with extremist thinking right now?
Well, it's true that we are today in denial of each other and in denial of each other's rights. But I think this war, this current situation, horrible as it is, I think the day after will prove that there will be some reasonable, rational thinking to addressing the conditions, because I think there's a realization when the dust settles that we cannot continue to live in conflict and in violence. And again, as Dr. Beilin said, hatred, denial. So I think there is a sense of a need for a genuine solution. And I think there's also a realization today that the Palestinians cannot get rid of the Israelis and the Israelis cannot get rid of the Palestinians. But we also need the help of our neighbors. We need the help of the US, our friends in Canada, in Europe, and of course in the Arab world.
Yossi, if you worry, though, on this point about extremism, with the bombardment of Gaza right now, if you worry that more Palestinians are going to be radicalized and moved toward Hamas because of what has happened in Gaza, and then you have more extremist thinking that you'll have to deal with.
Yeah, it might be the case, but not for long. I believe that more and more people, and I see it because they are interviewed on TVs, understand what a disaster Hamas brought upon the Palestinian people. They are coming back to their homes, and their homes are destroyed because of a crazy attack on Israelis on October the 7th, which brought about a retaliation. And they understand that this doesn't help them to educate their people and to bring bread to home. So I think that it won't take too long before people will understand that peace is the only solution for them.
Let me talk to you about, Hiba, the regional situation right now. We saw Iran launch airstrikes against Israel this past weekend in retaliation for an Israeli airstrike on its embassy earlier this month. There are fears that this will broaden the conflict. How might an all-out regional conflict impact your peace plan?
Well, I mean, certainly if a regional war with global ramifications takes place, and if neither side, Israel and Iran, do not exercise restraint, we could see ourselves in a war that would have long-term impact. And I think that would thwart for the foreseeable future any chances to reach any negotiated settlement. So I think the issue of Israel-Palestine would be sidelined to such an extent that we will not be able to resume discussions. It may change the map of the Middle East. It may change the map of Israel-Palestine. I think there are very serious consequences and unforeseen consequences if Israel and Iran engage in a war.
Yossi, I have time for one last question. I'll put that to you. We are just over 6 months into this conflict. Does a regional war concern you, and where do you see this going in the months ahead? How far are we away from some kind of peace agreement being signed?
Well, it concerns me very much. You know, you are sitting here in Tel Aviv. You are watching TV on Saturday, and you see an unbelievable war of missiles, hundreds and hundreds of missiles against you. And you ask yourself, where are we? Where are we? Are we really crazy? This is what we need? I mean, it was really a very important step that under the American leadership, Arab countries, Israel and other countries, Britain and France, were united to push back the Iranians. And I hope that they will be able to do it in the near future, so that Iran will not try again things like that. I mean, a regional war. I mean, who needs it? Why? What is the aim of such a war? What do the Iranians want to have? What are we winning of such a confrontation? I mean, this is the last thing that all of us need, that the world needs.
Hiba, Yossi, our thanks to both of you tonight.